All right, Introduction to Calculus and Statistics. Here is lesson 12.2. So today we're going to learn the product rule for derivatives. So if you have two derivative functions, let's say f of x times g of x, and you want to get the derivative of that, so let's do a little y equals. Your derivative is going to be y prime. It's going to be f of x, so your first function times the derivative of your second function plus, and then you switch it, your second function times the derivative of your first function. So you get f times g prime plus g times f prime. Now of course you're adding these together, so order doesn't really matter here. You could switch them. You could put g times f prime on this side and f times g prime on that side. It doesn't matter because you're adding your final answers. So that is our definition for product rule. Let's try some examples. So this is something that we're going to try now. I don't know why it says this. Let's get rid of that. So this just means the derivative of x squared plus 3 times 2x cubed plus 5x equals, so that's what we have to find out. So let's look at our first function. We're going to define that as f. It equals x squared plus 3. Well, what's the derivative of x squared plus 3? 2x. First part done. Then look at your second function, what you're multiplying it by. We'll make that our g. So g is 2x cubed plus 5x. What's the derivative of that? 6x plus 5. So now we've set up our problem, so now we just need to find our derivative. So we're going to do that by multiplying these together, f times g prime. So you get x squared plus 3. We're going to multiply that by 6x plus 5. And then you add your second part, multiply together. So f prime times g. This will give you the derivative of that function. So if you were to FOIL this all out and then simplify this, you would get the same answer. You don't have to simplify this. I'm just looking that you can set it up for now. Let's try another one. Here we have the function f of x equals x times e to the x. Let's go ahead and switch this f of x out. Let's make it y, just for now, so we don't get confused with our labeling. So y equals x times e to the x. I'm multiplying two functions here. My first function is x. I'm going to make that my f, and I know the derivative of x is 1. I'm multiplying that by e to the x, so I'm going to make that my g. And I've seen before that the derivative of e to the x is itself e to the x. So now I'm going to take my two parts and multiply them together. So I get x times e to the x, and then I add that with my second part, 1 times e to the x, and there's my derivative. That's my answer. Now, of course, you could factor out an e to the x and be left with e to the x times x plus 1. Let's try one more. Two functions multiplied together. Our first one is x squared plus 1. The derivative of that is 2x. My next function that I'm multiplying it by, I'm multiplying two functions together. That's why I can use the product rule. So the derivative here is 3x squared. Derivative of 3 is just 0. So remember, it doesn't matter which parts you take first. You can multiply g times f prime if you want to. So you get 2x times x cubed plus 3. And then we're going to add it with our second part. So plus 3x squared times x squared plus 1. Remember, it doesn't matter which you put in your multiplication spots either, because 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2. So there's our answer. And of course, like before, you could distribute your 2x, and you could distribute your 3x squared, and then you can combine like terms and get a more simplified answer. But for today, I just want you to get your parts all set up. So for homework tonight, I've got 4 that I want you to try. Your first one has e to the x in it. Don't forget, your derivative of e to the x is just e to the x. These are being multiplied. All right, so write these down. I'll check them tomorrow.